Can you hear me now, Kim? I think my kitty pushed the mute button on my microphone. I'm going to have to keep an eye on her. That's never happened before, but you know, with technology, there's always a first for everything. So, all right, so we are recording, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's a couple minutes after, and let's see. Oh gosh, screen sharing. I've got two choices. Which one do I really want? It's got two versions of it. I don't know which one. We'll try this one. Let's see. Yes, that looks like it's the one I want. All right. All right, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to this special edition live class, Top 3 Reasons Your Keto Diet Isn't Working and How to Fix It. I am your presenter, your keto guide, Carol Freeman, and I'm so glad you're here. So without further ado, let's get going. So you might be wondering, is this class for me? Well, just to assure you that you're in the right place, you've started a keto diet, but you're frustrated by either no weight loss or you've hit a plateau and you're just really struggling to figure out how to get better results. Now, you're also in the right place if you're somebody who's tried every diet out there. You've done HCG, Ideal Protein, Weight Watchers, etc. The list goes on, and you've lost a lot of weight over the years, but you're really tired of gaining all that weight back, plus even more. You're also in the right place if you have some health issues and you're really looking for a sustainable nutrition plan so that you can finally take control of your health, get your energy back, and feel like yourself again. Now, you're also in the right place if you're ready to start keto, but you're just totally confused by all the conflicting info. You can't figure out these macros, and you just feel overwhelmed with how to even get started. So my promise to you this afternoon, tonight, wherever it is for you at your time zone, my promise is that I'll teach you as much as I can in the short time that we have together. And for those of you that want to take it further, I promise to tell you how to do that. So who am I? Who am I? Well, my name is Carol Freeman. I've got some letters after my name. Basically what those mean is that I have a master's degree in nutrition and clinical health psychology. I'm also a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a certified nutritionist in the state of Washington. I'm also a registered hypnotherapist and a certified clinical hypnotherapist. Oh, I think I said that twice, sorry. All right, so I am a real healthcare provider, not just one that plays one on TV. And what are you going to learn today? Well, I'm going to share with you the top 3 reasons people fail on a keto diet and how to fix it. I'm also going to share with you how I found keto, lost 60 pounds in about 6 months, and a few other success stories along the way to inspire you. Also, I'm going to go over what is a keto diet, what is ketosis, and why is this a lost metabolic state and not some fluke or fad that's coming up right now. I'll also talk to you about why a keto diet is amazingly effective for transforming a ridiculously long list of health issues like obesity, diabetes, low energy, chronic pain, blood pressure, anxiety, depression, hormone imbalance, and so much more. So I'm going to start out here with my journey to keto. How did I find this? Well, it started out with this terrible car accident in 2014. But if I might actually tell you the truth and be absolutely frank, which I am, we have to go back even farther. So back in 2007, I got the blessing and privilege to be able to go back to school and get my dream degree at Bastyr University in a master's in nutrition and clinical health psychology. But since I had never finished my bachelor's, I had to do that first. So I started in 2007. I spent 5 years at Bastyr University. And it was a lot of stress. And you can see here at my graduation in 2012 that my body had gone through transformation, and not the kind that most people want. So over the years, my weight steadily climbed. A big part of that was the stress of school. But then after that car accident, well, the car accident came later because I was practicing as a nutritionist after I'd gone through that negative, ironic transformation, learning all I could about nutrition from a top-notch school. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And frankly, I was a fat nutritionist. I was passionate about helping people, but I didn't have an approach at that time that truly transformed people's health. Obviously, by looking at myself, you could tell that. All right, so fast forward now to that car accident in 2014. That fateful, fateful day, I was rear-ended by a distracted driver. So you can't tell it from this picture, but I'm actually in the car in this image here. So I was rear-ended by somebody going approximately 35 miles an hour, and she didn't even tap on her brakes, just slammed straight into the back of me here. That shoved my car into the car in front of me. It was a 5-car pileup, basically. Hi, Marilyn, I see you there. Welcome. And I was in a bad place after this car accident. I spent 3 months bedridden after the car accident from the injuries to my legs. I developed something called chronic regional pain syndrome. And this is a chronic progressive pain syndrome. This is something that people get and it doesn't go away. In fact, not only is it progressive, but it spreads from the original site to other places in the body. It's characterized by severe swelling and edema, extraordinary burning pain that spreads, like I said, and hypersensitivity to touch and temperature. So just the lightest touch on my legs would result in excruciating pain. And I recovered enough after about 8 months to be able to go back to work a little bit, but the swelling in my legs and the pain was still so bad that even 8 months after the accident, I couldn't even sit without my legs elevated. But then I got even sicker. So in December of 2014, I started to develop symptoms of post-traumatic hypopituitarism. And then by January of the following year, and then for 3 months after that, the symptoms were so bad, I was again bedridden and probably even in worse shape than with the leg injuries. So characterized by extreme fatigue, constant lightheadedness. I was having migraines that were lasting for 6 days long. I was intolerant to light and sound. I was having really terrible memory and cognitive problems. So when I tried to speak, my words would come out all jumbled, and I was dropping things out of my hand. When I would try to type, the words would be all jumbled up. I was having insomnia. I could not sleep at night until about 6 or 7 in the morning. My blood pressure was skyrocketing. I was really considering going on medication. The clumsiness I mentioned with dropping things out of my hand randomly. I was having constant heartburn and something called gastroparesis, which means that you eat, but the food doesn't digest. It doesn't move past your stomach into the rest of your digestive system very well. And so constantly hungry, and then the food was just piling up on my stomach. It was miserable, not to mention constant cravings. And so you know what? I was desperate for a solution, and I saw doctor after doctor and test after test after test. Nobody could help me. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. And I decided to go back to my own roots and my own belief. I truly believe if you give your body what it needs, food and nutrition-wise, it really can heal itself. It's pretty magical. And so I went back, I racked my brain. I was like, what do I know nutrition-wise that could help heal my brain? Now, I first tried a bunch of herbal supplements, and I went full force, all the town, made zero difference. And then I thought, well, I remember in school learning about this much about a ketogenic diet as something that treats epilepsy. And I thought, well, epilepsy is something that's wrong with the brain. And so perhaps that might be something I can explore to heal my brain, because that was my number one priority at this time. I just wanted to heal my brain enough that I could go back to work, that I could get out of bed and have a life again. And so I started investigating, and the more I read, the more excited I got. I really was hopeful that it would be something that would heal my brain. And I committed initially to 90 days because for some people it takes a considerable period to really adjust to that. And so I didn't expect a miracle in the beginning. I just buckled down and expected it would take 3 months to really see any difference. But guess what? Guess what? In just days, my symptoms started to subside. And then I got all these other benefits as well. So again, I just wanted to heal my brain. But guess what? The chronic pain in my legs went away. The swelling went away. And then a whole bunch of other things as well. I no longer had migraine headaches. The pain and swelling was gone. I had boundless energy. I had a normal appetite. My digestion was great. My blood pressure returned to normal, as well as my blood glucose, which was really getting close to pre-diabetes. My sleep was fantastic. Digestion was fantastic, no heartburn or other digestive issues, and a whole lot of other things. The longer that I do it, the more health benefits I notice. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And oh yeah, well, I told you that my primary goal was to heal my brain, but I also lost a bunch of weight on the way as well. About 60 pounds that I lost in just about 6 months. And again, this wasn't even my priority. This wasn't even anything that I thought was gonna happen. It just did. So maybe needless to say, I became captivated and obsessed with the power of keto. If it could do this for me, what can it do for my clients? And I can tell you even to this day that my life is 100% keto from the time that I wake up until I go to bed. I am helping people, I'm educating people, I'm talking to people about keto, or I'm speaking about it, or I'm reading research articles. I can tell you I was up till about midnight last night just reading research articles because I've been invited to speak in Cuba in December about the use of a ketogenic diet for diabetes. And so this is my whole life. And I'm so excited to be able to bring it to you. And I'm glad you're here. All right. So let's talk about then the top 3 reasons that keto diets fail and then how to fix them. And okay. So number 1 that I see is that people don't take the time to master keto adaptation. Now, each of these I'm going to tell you a little bit more about. So I'm just highlighting them now. The number 2 reason that keto diets fail is people don't have a smart eating strategy. And I'll tell you what I mean by smart eating strategy. And then the number 3 reason is not knowing the secrets to ending cravings. People make so many mistakes in this area. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about mastering keto adaptation. What do I mean by mastering keto adaptation? So you must understand what ketosis is. You need to know how to get there as fast as possible. You also need to know, so mastering keto adaptation also means learning how to fine tune it for your unique body. Anybody who's looked around out there, you'll see that there are so many different approaches and you wonder, well, how is that possible? Why is everybody saying different things? It's really because there's no one size fits all approach. You need to understand what you need to look for and how to then adjust it for your unique body. So let's get you started with some foundational info about keto adaptation and ketosis. Why would you want to master keto adaptation? Well, first of all, ketones are a superior fuel source in the body. They provide you boundless energy. When you're in ketosis, you're getting energy from both fat and ketones. Ketones are 28% greater energy supply than any other fuel source in the body. And so people in ketosis have a crazy amount of energy, focus from the minute they get up in the morning, and then it stays with them the whole day. When you're running on fat, we all, even very lean people, have a plentiful supply of fat in our body. And once we get switched over to using that as our primary fuel, then we can just go and go and go and go like Energizer Bunny. And maybe instead of a rocket here, I should put a picture of the Energizer Bunny. But that, that's patented or trademarked. I can't do that. And it also turns out that the brain loves ketones. So when the brain is running on ketones, your brain is really happy, clear thought. You don't get those crashes in mental fogginess, and you just can think and think and think. Other benefits you get from mastering keto adaptation and living in a state of ketosis is that this way of living is really anti-inflammatory. Well, what does that mean as far as symptoms you can escape? Well, pain. Pain is mediated by inflammation, and all kinds of pain go away on keto. So my extreme chronic debilitating pain syndrome in my legs that is characterized by the worst pain that people have recorded, it's nearly non-existent in my legs. But I've also had a lot of clients. I've had people that were in terrible car accidents 10 years ago that when they started my program, they had to ice their legs every night, and they were on prescription painkillers still at 10 years after the car accident. After about 10 weeks in ketosis, this client I'm thinking of, Sandy, she reported that she no longer had to ice her legs anymore. She no longer was taking prescription painkillers. Not only that, but she was able to help her daughter push a car a mile when it broke down and over a curb. And the next day she didn't even have any pain residual at all. And so other things, other kinds of pain as well, like arthritis pain goes away, chronic injuries and other things, and swelling too. So many things people are experiencing swelling in so many different ways. Also, because it's anti-inflammatory, it helps our immune system work the way that it should. So autoimmune conditions of all kinds get better. And then inflammation has a huge role in cardiovascular disease, so heart attack and stroke as well. It actually starts to heal those damage and those things that are going on behind the scenes. All right, so what else? Is there more? Yes, there's more. Ketosis and ketones are really potent antioxidant molecules. Why do we care about antioxidants? Well, they are the most potent anti-aging molecules that we can have. You can only get so much from foods. You probably have heard like, oh yes, antioxidants are in fruits and vegetables. Well, gosh, ketones are so much more powerful than any fruit or vegetable that you could eat. And so anti-aging, what do I mean by that? So ketosis heals you from the inside out, and it literally helps you get younger because it helps your cells repair damage that's been going on that gets backlogged. And when we're on a standard American diet, those changes can't get the repair that they need. Now, the way that I first noticed this before I looked into the research was I was showing my mom some pictures of dramatic weight loss success stories on keto where people had lost over 100 pounds. And something she commented was, she says, wow, it's really interesting that afterwards, even after they've lost 100 pounds or more, that they look younger than they did before. And this struck me as well, because I don't know how many of you have noticed before when you've had a friend perhaps that's lost a lot of weight, and you see them for the first time after the dramatic weight loss, and you kind of think to yourself like, oh wow, you lost a lot of weight, but you just look really old and wrinkly now, but congratulations, I'm really happy for you. Well, it's because all the other dietary approaches out there that restrict calories, cut back on fat, they don't help you reverse aging. This magical and too good to be true almost keto diet, it actually helps reverse the aging process, and it helps your body recycle the tissues, the extra tissues and skin that was there holding up all the fat before. It helps that. So people literally get younger. Now, not chronologically, we can't have it. It's like a time machine though. So you actually get thinner at the same time you're getting younger and feeling better as well. And the high fat diet as well helps people have amazingly soft skin. Dry skin goes away. For me, I never was afraid of fat before, but I didn't take it to this level. And so my dry elbows are gone. I no longer have dry heels or cracked heels at all. That was something I thought was just a normal part of getting older. I saw my mom have those cracked heels, and I just thought that's what happens when you get older. That's completely gone as well. I don't ever have calluses on my feet anymore. So when I go to get a pedicure, they don't have to shave anything off. My feet are just soft. All your tissues get really healthy as well. So arthritis, joint issues, those start to heal over time, as well as the example I gave of my client Sandy that had the reversal of the damage she'd had in her legs for 10 years from that car accident. More benefits you get from ketosis. Well, these ketones, like I said, they make your brain really, really happy. So we're seeing people get rid of anxiety and depression. They get rid of the feeling of just overwhelmed and stressed out, and it's replaced with a sense of calm and peace. And the other thing people really, really like about being in ketosis is that it gives you a metabolic advantage. Now, how many diets have you been on your life, and how many times have you lost weight and then gained it all back? And I talk to people every day that they blame that on themselves. They say, oh, if I would have just stuck with it, it was working really well. And if I would have just stuck with it, I could have lost all the weight. I'd still be thin. But it turns out that every other dietary approach out there slows your metabolism down. It makes you hungry, it makes you tired, and it makes you irritable. And that's because your body's trying to preserve the fat mass that you have. And you always get the rebound effect that you think is just you falling off the wagon, but in truth, it's your metabolism slowing down and your body saying, hey, you need to eat some more again. We need to put that fat back on because you're going to die because you're restricting calories and fat so much. And so it's not your fault. I want you to really breathe into that and hear that. It's not your fault. It's the lies that we've been telling the nutrition and medical field. We've been telling you the wrong approach. We've been saying eat less and exercise more. Well, guess what? There's a different way. And this ketosis, so really only the high fat version. So there's some imposters out there, some low fat keto versions out there, but you've got to have the high fat, not be restricting calories. And that's where you get this metabolic advantage. It actually speeds up your metabolism. You'll be burning more calories than you are now. And that is part of what makes this a really sustainable, truly long-term weight loss approach. The other thing that people really like about being in ketosis is it's a very potent appetite suppressant. So how likely are you to fail if you don't have an appetite? And I'm going to teach you about the cravings part here shortly. And your body's burning more calories than it was before. It takes away the cravings, takes away the hunger, and it takes away that hangry feeling. So do you know now if you go too long between meals and you start feeling kind of jittery, angry, and get out of my way, I'm going to eat an elephant because I'm so hungry. Like that totally goes away. And so let's talk a little bit more about what is ketosis, and I'll cover something called insulin 101. So just the basics of what's going on in your body here. Now in my program, I teach people a lot more in depth about what this is because I find that it really empowers people to understand what's going on in their body, and they're doing it because they have a goal and they understand what's happening rather than just following some meal plan that I've arbitrarily given them and they don't really know what's going on. So it turns out that ketosis is actually a lost metabolic state. Whoa, can't I say that? Lost metabolic state. Carbs used to be scarce. So back thousands of years ago, carbohydrates were not sold in every corner. We didn't have them in our house and car and purse and desk at work. And there wasn't a candy bowl out at the office and the doctor's office and everywhere else you go. So carbohydrate foods, they used to be really scarce. There were certain times of the year there might be a little bit more around. Maybe in the fall there were a few roots, but they weren't massive amounts. Carrots weren't like this big around and sweet potatoes this big around, or potatoes this big around. They were small little things and they were scarce as well. And then, the fruits that were available at that time were things like berries. But if you've ever been out in the wild and seen wild berries are very tiny compared to the berries we buy at the store that are this big. And if you've ever been hiking and tried to pick some berries, they're very sparse. They don't grow in big clumps that you can fill up cups and cups of them. And so carbohydrate foods, they really were something that was scarce, and they were something that people had occasionally in very small amounts. And as it turns out that at any one time in our body, we only need about a teaspoon's equivalent of carbohydrates. That's a very small amount, right? So you can imagine any time now that you eat more than a teaspoon's worth of any kind of carbohydrate, it's excessive. It's more than what our body needs at any one time. But to protect the health of our body, too much carbohydrate in our blood is dangerous. And to protect us, our body sends out a hormone signal that tells our cells to store that extra carbohydrate. Insulin is this hormone signal. Now, write down insulin. I didn't even mention that, but if you don't have a notepad, write down insulin. That's going to be a key. So basically, insulin is the opposite of ketosis. So this is something you need to master and understand really well, is that anything that raises insulin is going to be counter to ketosis. And insulin is a signal to your body that there's too many carbohydrates in the blood and it needs to be stored. Primarily, the body stores those carbs as fat. It also turns out that insulin is very inflammatory in the body, and it also signals the body to stop making repairs. We need to store this food. And you could probably see here that the reason this is because this was only something that happened occasionally. Occasionally, we would encounter a larger amount of carbohydrates. We would store those as fat for the in-between times. But guess what? How do we live now? How many times a day are we eating more than a teaspoon's worth of carbohydrates? And let's compare and contrast this to how many times a day did your grandparents eat? I bet they had 3 meals a day, right? 3 square meals. Like, that's a phrase that we've all heard. 3 squares. And what would happen if you tried to get a snack before dinner? You got smacked maybe. You're going to spoil your dinner. You weren't allowed to have a snack before dinner. But what do we do to our kids now? Or how do we even live now? It's that, we wake up in the morning and we either have cereal at home and orange juice and a banana and milk. All these are excessive amounts of carbohydrates at one time, way more than our body can use. And then in the morning, maybe we're stopping at Starbucks and we're getting a scone as well. We've got our high sugar coffee and we've got a scone to go with it, or some kind of a pastry or muffin or something like that. And then at lunchtime, we're maybe getting, some kind of a sandwich that has bread on it, or we're having something else that has a lot of carbohydrates, way more than we need. And then what happens in the afternoon? We're crashing, we're burning, we're hungry, we're jittery. And so, between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, we're seeking out some other kind of a snack, a pick-me-up. Maybe we're stopping back at Starbucks. Maybe we're going and getting something out of the vending machine. We're looking at our own pantry or cupboards, or we're stopping for a little, a snack size something at a fast food place because we're crashing. And then we go home and have dinner. Guys have some rice and pasta or bread on the side, or maybe some both. And then you're still hungry after dinner, right? So you need some, a little snack or crackers or cookies or a piece of cake or probably some ice cream or something like that. So what is that? Like 6 or 8 times a day that we're eating excessive amounts of carbohydrates. And this is insulin overload in our body. Not only is it excessive carbohydrates, but it's just way too much insulin for our body. And what we get is a fire alarm effect. So imagine in your own life, wherever you spend most of your day, that you heard a fire alarm. The first time you would be startled. You would realize, oh my gosh, there's an emergency. I need to stop what I'm doing and I need to go outside. And you do that and the fire alarm resets, and so you go back inside. But what if 2 hours later, there was another fire alarm? And 2 hours after that, another fire alarm. And 2 hours after that, another fire alarm. And so imagine that 6 to 8 times a day, there's a fire alarm going off in your house or your office or wherever you are. How long would it take until you started to ignore it? Oh gosh, there's that alarm again. Okay, never mind. I got to get stuff done. I'm just going to ignore it. Well, this is what your cells start to do. They get insulin overload and they start ignoring it. They're like, there's no other way that we can, this is too much. I'm tired of this. I'm just going to keep doing work. And so what happens though is that the glucose then starts to build up in your bloodstream, and that's dangerous. So just like if there really was a fire in your home or your office, your body knows this. So what would the fire department do if people started ignoring fire alarms? They would make them louder. They would make them with lights and sirens, and they would make them with maybe glitter and unicorns and dragons and all kinds of things to get people's attention. And so it would make them bigger and louder and maybe longer. And that's what your body does as well. It's to try to get a handle on all this excessive carbohydrate intake, is that it starts to release more and more and more insulin, and then your cells shut down more and more and more. And so we end up with something called insulin resistance. So this is when your cells start ignoring insulin. Now, it's not a lack of insulin in your body, it's too much insulin, and your cells are ignoring it. So my tip for you, which I said already here, is that keeping insulin low is a huge key to ketosis. Now, understanding all the things that raise insulin will be really important for your success, and that's one of the keys of keto adaptation mastery, is understanding all the different things that do affect insulin. And so what happens as we develop insulin resistance? And I can tell you right now that 80% of the population is already insulin resistant. And this is not just adults, kids are in this state as well. So we feel low energy all the time. We have constant hunger and cravings that lead to weight gain. And it leads to metabolic syndrome, which is a collection of symptoms or signs in our body, things like hypertension, high blood pressure, obesity, especially in the middle of the body, high blood glucose, and just bad cholesterol numbers. Diabetes is also insulin resistance happens first, and if you don't do anything about that, that leads to diabetes. Cancer as well is also associated with this, because when we're in the constant state of insulin overload, our body can't catch those small little changes that happen in our cell that would normally be repaired long before anything. And I'm getting a thumbs up on this one. Long before those changes would, at a time we could catch them where they could just be disposed of before they lead to anything bad. Insulin resistance is also related to migraines, epilepsy, dementia, and Alzheimer's. And I can tell you right now, so a lot of people think of like, oh, keto is for people that's overweight. Insulin resistance is only people who are having weight problems. But I can tell you that even lean people, the people that you think like, oh, they can get away with eating whatever they want, it's a lie. It is a lie, because even thin people can have insulin resistance. And things like migraine, epilepsy, dementia, Alzheimer's. How many people have you ever known in your life that were a normal body weight and they still had a heart attack or a stroke? They developed dementia or Alzheimer's. So those people that are thin, don't let them fool you. They're not getting away with eating a high carb diet. Chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, hormone problems as well. So it turns out when insulin is really high, it wreaks havoc in our hormone system. And so it sends the wrong signal. So symptoms of PMS, PCOS, perimenopause symptoms, and then in men, low testosterone as well is all related to insulin resistance. Guess what? Depression and anxiety, that mental fogginess, memory problems, concentration, things like ADD and ADHD, acne and allergies as well. Guess what? Those things go away too on keto. So not only food allergies, but environmental allergies. I interviewed a local gym owner that when he went keto, he no longer was allergic to cats, and he'd been allergic to cats his entire life. It's pretty amazing. And then a lot of digestive issues as well related to inflammation from insulin and then just overconsumption of carbohydrates. So things like heartburn, gas and bloating and diarrhea and constipation, all those things go away. And then, like I said, too, the autoimmune conditions as well. So and so much more. The list goes on and on and on. All right, so let me just share with you Kevin's story. Kevin is one of my clients, and it's really awesome, his story, but it's also very typical. So these stories I'm sharing with you along the way are normal results that people get. And so Kevin came into my program, and his goal was to be able to get off of all the medications he was on. They were giving him some side effects that he just was not enjoying, and he wanted to see if he could get off of his medication. So he started my program, and he was on diabetes medication, which means he had diabetes. He was on blood pressure medications, which means he had high blood pressure. He also was on a cholesterol medication, and he was on a heartburn medication as well. And so his goal was, can I get off of all these? Well, guess what? In 6 weeks, Kevin got off of all 4 medications. He was completely medication free. He'd also lost 30 pounds. And again, that wasn't even his goal. So what does that really mean, getting off 4 medications? Well, guess what? He no longer had diabetes. He no longer had cholesterol problems. He no longer had high blood pressure, and he no longer had any heartburn or digestive problems. But what happens if people don't decide that they want to master keto adaptation? So this goes a couple of ways. So one is if you just want to keep living in the high insulin, high carb world, there's a lot of health problems that go with that, right? You're just headed towards all those health problems. And like I said, 80% of the population is insulin resistant right now. So add any number list of health problems, and that's what people are headed towards if they don't choose to look at this. But the other part is, so if people are trying to do keto on their own, but they just don't really know what they're doing, they don't know how to do it right, they're confused or overwhelmed, and they just like randomly picked, one of the approaches out there. I see this over and over again, is that people feel miserable trying to implement it because they don't understand, first of all, what's happening in their body and what they need to do to get there, or they just don't know how to do it the right way. And so they end up with headaches and fatigue, and they just give up, and they say, oh, well, keto didn't work for me. I can tell them always that no, you weren't doing keto right for you. It's not that keto didn't work for you. You just didn't know the right way to do that. So also what I see is that people saying they can't get into ketosis. Again, this is a matter of just not knowing how to fine tune it for themselves. And so, and then I see this over and over again, is that people just, they aren't losing weight. They started keto and they're like, what's wrong with me? I can't lose weight on this. Or they hit plateaus in their weight, and then they don't know what to do at that point to try to break through that. So, and so, like I said, number 2 reason why keto diets fail is that people don't have a smart eating plan. And what do I mean by smart eating plan? It needs to be sustainable. It needs to maximize ketosis. It needs to accelerate results. It needs to be realistic, right? Real food. And it needs to be a time saver. So let me tell you a little bit more about what I mean by these. So the S, sustainable. What I teach my clients is an easy meal formula that guarantees that they hit their macros every day. So they get right on target with their carbs, fats, and proteins. And this is the way that people actually think about food. So it's not some crazy dietitian calculation where you've got to figure out 60 to 90% of your calories from fat and 10% protein and 5 to 10% carbs. Like, who thinks about food like that? Nobody does. It's too hard. So you've got to have a way of figuring this out and learning from the very beginning how to eat real food that hits that. Now, your eating plan also needs to maximize ketosis. It needs to help you get to ketosis as fast as possible and then maintain ketosis. Now, I see this in people that are trying to eat things like low-carb tortillas and low-carb bread and things like that, and products that are on the market. And this is because a lot of people don't realize that not all carbohydrates are created equal. Some of them have a much more dramatic insulin response than other ones do. And so when people, there is a big difference between doing a low carb diet and a ketogenic diet. And so some people mistakenly follow a low carb plan, and they try to keep low carb tortillas and bread in place, and they can't figure out why it isn't working, and they're not actually in ketosis. So that's another part of an eating plan that's really important. Now, your smart eating plan needs to accelerate your results by knowing and showing you the best techniques for blasting through plateaus. And the R then, realistic food plan. There are some imposter keto diets out there on the market, but they don't let you eat real food from day one. There are some approaches out there that have you eating powdered packaged things, and you can't go out to eat. It's not food that even tastes good. And so your smart eating plan has to be something that immediately fits into your life. It immediately fits your taste. It lets you eat the foods that you like. It doesn't force you to eat foods you don't like. It fits your travel schedule and social life as well. Additionally, your eating plan has to be a time saver, right? One of the things I've seen, one of the biggest pitfalls I've seen why it doesn't work for people is that they overcomplicate it and they try to do these really fancy recipes. And what I found universally, like, people need meals that are fast and easy. That's just our way of life. And that is something that's not going to change in people's life. They're busy. They don't have a lot of time to plan. And so you need to have meal ideas that are fast and easy and things that take like 5 minutes to make and throw together a meal. And so that's another piece I've seen that is essential for people's long-term success on this. If they try to do those complicated recipes and all the other meal plans that just aren't the foods that they like, then it's not sustainable. It doesn't last. So let me share you a story of Becky. I don't have a picture of Becky here because she's actually a healthcare provider, and so to protect her anonymity, I just have her name here. So Becky was somebody that was one of those people, like so many people out there, that thought she could do it on her own. And she saw my success, my transformation, and she thought, well, I'm smart enough. I'm a healthcare provider. I have training in biochemistry and biology and human nutrition, and I can figure this out. I'm a smart person. And so she tried on her own for months and months, and I kept encouraging her. Well, really, I encouraged her to keep joining my program because I knew that it would get her the results that she wanted. And she was insistent, no, I can do this on my own. I'm smart. It's not a matter of whether you're smart or not. It's about having the shortcuts. But anyway, so she kept telling me, like, I'm so tired. I'm having headaches even after trying to do this for months. And I'm just so hungry all the time. And I'm having cravings. And I just don't get it. Like, you promised all this stuff with keto and it's not happening. And so, keto just doesn't work for me. And I was like, no. It has nothing to do with that. I'm sure there's things that you're not doing right. And I said, join my program. And so she finally did. She was like, okay, I'll give it one last try. Let's see if Carol knows anything that I haven't figured out already, because I'm pretty sure this isn't going to work for me. And so she very quickly figured out there were several things she was doing wrong. And she's like, oh my gosh, okay, this makes all the difference. And in a very short period of time, she was feeling awesome. All the promised keto benefits. She lost her appetite. She wasn't feeling hungry and starving all the time. The headaches went away. The energy came back. And she wrote me one day to say, okay, basically this whole story that I've told you, she recapped that. And she was like, you were right. You were right all along. And what a difference it makes to actually, have a proven strategy. Instead of trying to weed through all that information myself, I should have just started with you from the beginning. So then what happens? This is what I see people that come to me, if they don't have this smart eating strategy plan that I put together for them, they end up starting out. They think the way to start a keto diet is just to go buy all the cookbooks, all the meal plans, download all the ebooks and try to read them all. And then maybe they try to get started with the recipes in the cookbooks, and they end up buying all these expensive ingredients. They have to order online, and then they never use them again. They're spending hours and hours looking at Pinterest and blogs and Facebook to find the perfect recipes. And they just end up overwhelmed by all the conflicting approaches and online advice, and they hit their plateau, and then they go to some Facebook group that has like 10,000 people in it, and they get hundreds of different pieces of advice about what to do or change. And then they're confused. They've gone to 5 different websites and calculated their macros, and each one of them says something different. And it's just confusing and overwhelming. And then also people just dread meal prep, because who has 40 minutes to an hour to prepare every single meal? It's just too complicated and time consuming. So my number 3 piece here, this one, I've got a couple of things I'm going to go in a little bit deeper for you here. I mean, I've got so much to teach about keto. So again, I'm trying to, let me check on the time here. Oh gosh, I only have 15 more minutes. Okay. So let's see how much I can get through here with you. So I might start talking a little faster so I can make sure, because there's some really important things in here. So one of the keys to people falling off on keto is that they struggle with cravings and hunger. And there's some really big mistakes that I see people making here. So number one thing is you got to get to ketosis as fast as possible, because being in ketosis is the number one cravings crusher. You learn that through the mastery of keto adaptation, which I teach people in depth how to get there. Now, you also need to maintain ketosis. So, having a little bit of carbs here and there, a little cheat or this or that, it kicks you out of ketosis, and the cravings and the hunger come back. And so you've got to stay in ketosis to stop those cravings. You also need to know the top non-food ketosis killers. Guess what? There are things that aren't related to food that suppress ketosis. So you need to know how to avoid them, and then how to combat them if they're things you can't avoid. Additionally, this is the ones I'm going to go in a little bit deeper here, is that learn why keto-friendly desserts and fat bombs sabotage your success. So that one I'm going to go in a little bit more detail in the next slide. And then this one here, understand the power of the cephalic phase of eating and use it to your advantage. So that one is on 2 slides from now, and I'm going to give you a little more details about that as well. So the secret to ending cravings, there is something, this what's called a highly palatable combo of food. So anything that is fat and tastes sweet, whether it actually has sugar and carbs in it or is just some keto version of something that tastes sweet, triggers something in our brain. It triggers a part of our brain that's the addiction part of our brain. And that signal in our brain signals us to eat more and more and more. It also causes an insulin release, and it overrides our natural ability to know when we've had enough to eat. And when you have things in your life, when you try to recreate your former high carb lifestyle in a keto friendly way, you end up triggering this part of your brain, and people always end up eating more than if they had not eaten that in the first place. So imagine you've gone out to dinner, you're very full, you're stuffed, and then they bring the dessert tray by. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. I'm going to eat that, right? And so you'll eat that and you'll be eating more stuffed. But just imagine that they never brought the dessert tray by. You wouldn't keep eating more of the food you had on your plate because you're already stuffed. But something about that highly palatable combo, the fat and sweet, which is what desserts are, makes your body eat even more than it should. And so the same thing happens in the keto world when you try to bring in these desserts and fat bomb things, is that we end up eating more. And this is the really big thing I see why people stall. They don't get maximum results. But the other important part of this is that when you feed a craving, it only reinforces it. Now, I have a little story related to raccoons. I'll try to summarize it really short here because I know we're running short on time. But I moved into an apartment or a condo many years back, and one night there was a bunch of raccoons that came out of the woods, and the lady downstairs started feeding them. And I was like, what the heck is going on? It turns out that one night when she first moved in, one raccoon came and she thought, oh, it looks so hungry, I'm going to feed it. And so she fed it some cat food. And the next night, 2 raccoon come back. And the next night, 4. And the next night, 20. And then pretty soon she's got an entire pack. I'd never seen so many raccoons in one place in my entire life. I may never again. But basically, every time she fed a raccoon, it told its friends and they all came back together. Same thing happens with cravings. So when people on keto feed their craving with something sweet, it reinforces it. And it comes back at the exact same time the next day, usually even stronger. So another really big tip for you is that if you have a craving, you can't feed it. You've got to get past that because all it's going to do is make that craving even worse the next time. So don't feed raccoons. And so here's another really big tip I have for you that a lot of people don't know about, is that there is something called the cephalic phase of eating. It has to do with our brain trying to be smarter than us. So just any kind of sensory input of food. So that means smelling it, seeing it, hearing it. It could be feeling or tasting, obviously, but those are ones you're already at the point where you're going to eat. But the ones that are more relevant to this are just looking at food, hearing food, or smelling food. Your brain thinks, we're going to get to eat that food. Let's get ready. Let's help her out. And let's start releasing insulin before you even put any food in your mouth. So remember what I said about insulin. It is the opposite of ketosis. So this is one of the hidden ketosis killers, is just seeing or smelling or hearing food. Some people, depending on how big their fire alarm had to get, how insulin resistant they are, may have an extreme release of insulin just from looking at food. So this is huge, right? Because how many people spend all the time looking at recipes, looking on Pinterest, watching TV cooking shows, and looking at all their cookbooks and ordering more cookbooks. And so not only are you trying to make it too complicated by buying all those recipes and meal plans, you're actually counteracting the whole purpose of ketosis and releasing insulin, making yourself hungry, making yourself have more cravings by doing all this. And so what I teach my clients is that you need to notice what are your craving triggers and then avoid them in the beginning. But guess what? They get better over time. Your body heals its insulin resistance. And so the things that trigger you in the end aren't going to be the same in the long run. But in the beginning, for your success, you've got to avoid these. So you've got to know that just looking at recipes all day long is counterproductive, and that's going to keep making you have cravings. So this also includes going to Costco on their sampling day. So even if you don't eat any and you've been really good and you didn't have anything, just going and being around all that food being served is going to cause an insulin release. I've had one of my clients really struggled and she couldn't figure out, like, why am I having such a hard time staying in ketosis? Every day it's so variable. And so we started investigating. Many days it's pretty good. And then one day she just randomly be really, really low. And I said, well, what happened last night? What did you do last night? She's like, well, nothing. It's all normal. Well, except we went to Costco and went shopping. And so I teased out the fact that for her, going to Costco and just being around that food, seeing and smelling that food and hearing it, suppressed her ketosis so much it actually kicked her out of ketosis, and she was spot on with her eating plan. So this is really powerful, and don't ignore it. So like I said, use this knowledge to your advantage. So let me share a story of Carrie. Carrie was somebody very much like me, starting out before, that was somebody that had to eat every 2 to 3 hours, that when you left the house, you have to think about snacks to take with you, because if you go too long without eating, you're going to crash and burn. You're going to feel irritable, and you're going to feel just miserably hungry. And so before you go anywhere, you got to think about, like, okay, so where can I stop along the way so I can get some food, or what should I take with me, or should I eat really quick again before I leave? It just takes a lot of time and thought and effort. And so very quickly, she was only about 14 days in. She'd lost almost 8 pounds in the first 14 days. And the most amazing thing for her, though, was that she was no longer hungry. She no longer had the hangries. She no longer got irritable. She could go half a day or longer without even eating and not even feeling hungry. And it was just life-changing. And I know for me as well, like, to not have to focus on food and think about it and pre-plan the entire day because you can't survive if you get hungry, and not having that anymore is just life-changing and frees up so much mental energy for so much else in your life. So without crushing your cravings, without knowing all these strategies and all the other ones that I teach, people mistakenly spend lots and lots of time looking at recipes, fantasizing about keto-friendly desserts. They end up thinking about, oh, how can I keto-fy this? And this is something that I used to eat, and what can I do, and how can I make it keto-friendly? And that results in they're just struggling with hunger and cravings and feeling deprived and wondering, why do they keep falling off plan? It also leads to these weight loss stalls, right? So insulin is the signal. It's the opposite of ketosis, but it's also the signal that tells your body to store fat. And so even if you're eating 100% on plan and you're doing these things to make your body release insulin, it will stall your weight loss. You'll hit plateaus. And then that further makes you feel deprived and frustrated. And then you start fantasizing about food even more. And by not minimizing these ketosis killers, that increases insulin. And then another mistake that people are doing is they're reinforcing cravings, right? Don't feed the raccoons because they come back in droves. So many people mistakenly say, like, oh, well, I need this dessert. I need this keto dessert because it helps me. It gets rid of my cravings, but they're fooling themselves, right? So you feed a raccoon, yeah, it goes away. That doesn't mean that feeding the raccoon got rid of the craving, right? Because it just comes back again even stronger. So the only way to get rid of the raccoons, get rid of the cravings, is to not feed them. That's actually how you get rid of cravings, is to not feed them, right? If you don't feed the raccoons, they don't come back. Maybe a little bit they come back the next few nights, but eventually they stop coming if you stop feeding them. So same thing with cravings. And then, so I just see people giving up because the cravings are unbearable, right? If you've got 20,000 raccoon at your back door, how likely are you to go, oh, go away, I'm not going to feed you tonight? It's unbearable having all those raccoon. They're probably scratching at your door and ripping down your screen door, and maybe they can open the door as well, and it just becomes unbearable. And so that's another mistake I see. So, well, what next? Now, this is, like I said, this is my promise. At the beginning, I said I would teach you as much as I could in the time we had together. And then for those of you that want to take a little bit further, I'll tell you what to do next. So why did you show up today? So this is where I'm a mind reader. You're frustrated with weight loss attempts, but you're still holding out hope that you'll find an answer. Or maybe you're just really desperate to find the right diet to transform your health, but you don't even know where to start. Or perhaps you just want to be told exactly what to do to have real success on a keto diet. And then the big question that most people have at this time is, how do I get going? How do I get started with a keto diet so that I can lose weight quickly, get that unbridled energy you told me about, awesome health, in an efficient, effective way for an exceptional value? So here is how I can help. My easy and strategic solution for you is what I call a keto consult. This is where I'll assess your unique health history, your current health problems. We'll talk about how to implement a keto diet to improve your health and lose weight right away. Now, this hour consult with me is a value of $597. But guess what? Because you're on this class right now, special bonus. It's no charge to you. This is my gift. This is how I can help. But you might be wondering, okay, well, why are you doing this? This is a way we can continue the keto conversation. On these exclusive calls, I'll help you get total clarity around your big why for doing keto with a clear path to take to getting started with maximum results. Now, these calls are no obligation, but if you're ready for my help and I think you're a good fit for my program, I may invite you to become one of my new keto program members. Now, who is this consult for? You're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. You are 100% committed to achieving your health and weight loss goals right now. You don't want to wait one more day. And you also want a step-by-step strategy to get on the fast track to keto success. And you also value yourself enough to invest in a top-notch expert keto guide. But this isn't for everybody. So let me tell you who this is not for. If you're someone who's just looking for the latest fad diet, something you can do for the short term and then go back to the way you're eating now, this is not for you. And if you're just not ready to put any time or effort into your own health, and this is also not for you. And if you're somebody who just want to continue try doing it yourself so you can save money, it's also not a good fit for you either. So here's how you get your keto consult. And this is for people that have not already had a keto consult with me. That's another who it's not for. So who it's for is for people that have never had a phone consult with me. So the way that you can schedule that is go open your browser tab right now. I have limited spots available. So I have 2 spots open this evening that I've opened up, and then I've got 2 more tomorrow. And that's all I've opened up because this is really popular. And I want to save it for the people that are really, really serious about getting on the right track for keto. So the URL that you want to go to is ketocarol.com. Don't forget the E on the end of Carol, and /schedule-now. So the URL there is at the bottom of the screen. And I'm just going to leave you here with this. This is a review that was a surprise to me that showed up from one of my former clients. And this is from Mary. Mary was somebody, let me just tell you her backstory. So Mary was somebody that came into my program, and she was somebody that, she doubted that keto would work for her because she had a lot of health issues and a lot of pain. And she had chronic fatigue syndrome. She had really bad perimenopause symptoms. She was having a lot of aches and pains, and she had a lot of other health issues. And she thought, she talked to me, she says, well, I've got all these things going on. I just don't know if keto is the right fit for me. And I told her, oh my gosh, no, this is perfect. All these things are related. And so many of us get to that point in our health where we've got this long list of health issues and they seem like they don't fit together. It's like, why do I have this and why do I have that? Who knows? Why am I tired all the time? It's just a part of getting older. And it turns out that they all have this underlying mechanism. And so I assured Mary, I said, gosh, no, this is perfect. Like, all these things are going to go away. And so this is, let's see. Okay. So this was where she was at 6 months, and she's about 10 months in now. So at 6 months, she was saying, that she just really appreciated my expertise and knowledge. And she just knew, it was clear that if she would have tried it on her own, it would have taken her so much more time and just frustration with all the research. And she said it was just well worth the investment After 6 months, she lost 30 pounds. She didn't write the specifics on here, but she was down. She no longer was in pain. So Mary's a yoga instructor, and so it was interfering with her ability to do her work. And so the pain went away and the energy came up so much that she was able to teach more classes. She was able to make more money in her life. She was able to do back-to-back classes, things she'd never been able to do before. And it just completely transformed her life, her business, her health. And oh, the other thing she was saying was that she could sleep through the night. So when she started before keto, she was having hot flashes so bad that she couldn't even sleep through the night. And so this was something else that she got, was now she could sleep through the night because she no longer was having hot flashes. And so at this point, so let's see, last time I checked in with Mary, she, 10 months in, she's still going strong on keto. And I think at this point she's lost either 50 or 60 pounds now. And so she's at a weight that she hadn't seen in a really, really, really long time, and just feeling really great. So it's totally sustainable. And people just love the support. So let's see, let me check the time. Well, that is our time together. So I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you for letting me share some more tidbits and tips. Hopefully you learned a lot here tonight, this afternoon. And thank you again. If you have any questions, if for some reason you can't get one of those spots, if they're all gone, then there's info@ketocarol.com is my support email. And I wish you all well. All right. All right. So I'm getting a thank you from Kim. Great presentation. Thank you for being here. Thank you all. I'll let you all go. Have a fantastic Friday evening. And if you'd like to join me online, I have an open Facebook group. It's Keto Radiance. And so if you search for that on Facebook, that's an open group that you're welcome to join and come and hang out with me. And thank you all. I'll see you again soon. Have a good night. Bye.